Hip thrusts. The hip thrust is a research-proven exercise for greater glute activation than squats or deadlifts with minimal spinal stress. If you have tight hips, weak glutes, or knee pain, then this exercise is the best place to start. It can be done on the floor, but the range of motion is limited. The shoulders elevated hip thrust increases quad contribution. The feet elevated hip thrust increases hamstring engagement. Once you can easily do 20 reps on both legs, progress to the single-legged variation. If you notice any imbalances between sides, do 2 to 3 sets on the weak side for every set you do on the strong side. I highly recommend adding a mini band above the knees to maximize hip development. You can also add band resistance around your hips or place a weight on your lap, though I prefer to keep squeezing out better form and technique with my body weight. Hip hinges. The hip hinge isolates hip flexion and extension for glute and high hamstring development. It also works the entire backside of your body or posterior chain. Though this exercise can be done with the legs straight, it's typically performed with soft knees. Think about closing a car door with your butt. I recommend using the double leg variation to build size and strength, and the single leg variation for balance, mobility, and stability. To perform the double legged variation, hold a pair of dumbbells and slide them down your legs until they reach knee or upper shin level, or when your trunk is parallel to the floor. Only go lower if you can maintain a slight natural arc in your lower back. Go slowly and never force the range of motion. You can also do this with a kettlebell between your legs. To perform the single leg variation, start by using both hands for self-assistance so you can keep your hips and shoulders perfectly square to the ground. Add a knee lift to strengthen the hip flexors. Progress to only using single arm self-assistance. Progress further by holding a weight in the non-assisting hand. If you want to put weight in both hands, kickstand the non-working leg on the floor, a box, or onto a wall. For best results, add a mini band to both drills. You can also perform them with your feet on slant boards to increase ankle and hip mobility. Glute ham leg curls. Your upper hamstrings assist the glutes in extending the hips. Your lower hamstrings flex the knees. The sliding or rolling leg curl works both functions with minimal spinal stress, making it the best hamstrings exercise for longevity. Follow this 5-step progression for best results. 1. Eccentric only. 2. Full range reps. 3. Add weight or band tension. 4. Single-legged eccentric only. And 5. Single-legged full range reps. No sliders? Modify with the glute ham walkout. But you can also use socks or paper plates on a wooden or tile floor and furniture sliders on carpet or turf. This exercise never gets easier. In fact, it only gets harder with practice as you improve your form, increase range of motion, and get a better mind-muscle connection. The key is to fight to keep your hips fully extended throughout the drill. Drive your arms underground to maximize leverage and stability, plus strengthen your upper back. Shinbox squats. The shinbox shape is the ultimate hip mobilizer, plus it's the best way to retrain your squatting pattern from the ground up. Consider it the best glutes exercise you're not doing. The 90-90 shape on the floor winds both hips into rotation, something most trainees desperately need, especially if they suffer from chronic back pain. The front leg is externally rotated, and the back leg is internally rotated. These extreme joint angles put your body at a mechanical disadvantage, meaning the stronger you get here, the stronger you'll be on your feet. Adding a squat to this position will strengthen imbalances between sides, level the pelvis, and provide a complete hip workout. Start by using a stick, pole, or PVC pipe to self-assist with your upper body. Then bear hug a medicine ball for counterbalance and core activation. Progress further by holding a weight at chest level. Start with a 25 to 50 pound bell and slowly build up to 100 plus pounds. Please be patient with this exercise. There's a big learning curve, but the payoff down the road is nothing short of a mobility miracle. My favorite variation is the shin box to lunge to squat flow. Do 1 rep per side for 10 straight minutes for a legendary lower body mobility workout. Box squats. The box squat autocorrects your technique, plus takes pressure off of your back and knees, making it easier to recover from. It also teaches you how to properly sit and stand. I love using an adjustable aerobic step with risers for micro progression. Add a mini band wrapped above the knees to increase lateral hip activation and prevent inward valgus knee collapse. The ideal squat depth depends on your individual hip anatomy, limb length, body size, injury history, and goals. Thighs parallel to the floor or slightly above or below is the perfect functional depth for most people. If your goal is to go ass to grass, gradually lower the box height over time to get there safely. If you have a history of knee pain or you want to stress your glutes and hamstrings more, keep your shins vertical to the floor. If your goal is max quads activation, use a more upright trunk and forward knee position. You can increase the difficulty by doing goblet or double dumbbell front squats. You can also add jumps from a dead sit position for lower impact jump training. Plus, you can do them single-legged, just start with a higher box than normal. Once you've perfected the box squat, you're ready to squat in free space. Try doing 10 reps every minute on the minute for 10 straight minutes. I once did this for 30 minutes straight with a 100-pound dumbbell, and it changed me forever. Step-ups. The step-up is arguably the most functional lower body exercise. Consider it the hip-dominant sibling to the lunge, and it's also easier on the knees. Unlike the lunge, it requires you to lift your leg up, recruiting the hip flexors more. The ideal starting step height is where your top thigh is approximately parallel to the floor, or your box squat height. You can gradually progress to a higher box over time, but you should always be able to keep your back foot flat on the floor at the starting position. You should be able to do 10 minutes of continuous alternating step-ups before adding weight. To get the most out of this exercise, accentuate the eccentric phase by taking 3 to 5 seconds to step down. Explode up to maximize fast twitch fiber activation. Hold a pair of dumbbells for size and strength. Hold a dumbbell in either hand to increase core and hip activation. My favorite variation is the step up to reverse lunge for the best of both worlds. 10 to 20 minutes of continuous alternating step-ups is an amazingly mindless workout on days when stress is high and focus is fading. Split squats. Split stance leg training increases inner and outer hip thigh activation and makes lighter loads go a longer way. It's also my favorite way to train the legs for longevity. Think of it as an in-place or stationary lunge, meaning it's a stronger, more stable position. A closer stance with the knee over the toes and an upright trunk targets the quads more. A longer stance with a vertical shin angle shifts the stress to the glutes. Self-assist with a stick or PVC pipe as needed. Elevating the front foot extends the range of motion for greater hip flexion on the lead leg. This stretches the glutes more, making the exercise more hip dominant and less taxing on the knees. Start with a slight elevation using a low box or step, weight plate, or book that's 3 to 6 inches off of the ground. Elevating the rear foot increases the stretch on the quads and hip flexors of the back leg. It also shifts the load onto the lead leg more with approximately an 80-20 versus 50-50 front to back foot weight distribution. There are 2 primary setups. 1, place the toes of your back foot on a lower elevation. 2, place the top of your back foot on a higher elevation, no higher than your ideal box squat depth. I love 2-minute work periods per side with just 30 seconds rest between sides. 10 to 20 minutes of that extended time under tension will give you wheels of steel, and it's easy on the knees. Lunges. This is the most complete lower body exercise, period. The lunge is basically a full range of motion version of walking, thus adding strength, mobility, and stability to your gait. In fact, I believe 10 minutes of continuous alternating or walking lunges should be a prerequisite to running for the same amount of time. There was a time when I couldn't do a single bodyweight lunge from debilitating knee injuries as a football player in my youth, but I fully committed to this exercise and built up to doing 1 hour of continuous walking lunges without stopping. This led to a shocking leg transformation using this simple bodyweight exercise. I love to warm up with self-assisted lunge switches. Focus on driving the down knee underground to create space. The reverse lunge targets the glutes and hamstrings more, especially the sliding variation. The forward lunge hits the quads more, and the lateral lunge stresses the inner and outer hips and thighs more and can also be done with sliders. My favorite variation is the seesaw lunge, which is the best way to mimic walking lunges in small spaces. Heels elevated squats. Elevating your heels when squatting accomplishes 2 main objectives. 1, it allows people with limited ankle mobility to squat deeper and more upright. 2, it targets the quads and stresses the knees more. Start with self-assistance or your body weight only, using a slow 3 to 5 second eccentric or lowering phase with a 1 to 2 second pause at the bottom. Only use a pain-free range of motion to avoid knee swelling or flare-ups. Slant board sliding wall squats are a great way to safely build the lower quads or VMO and strengthen the knees. I also think it's the best place to start for heels elevated squatting. Sliding against the wall promotes a perfectly upright trunk position for zero spinal stress and maximal quads work. It's kind of like using the hack squat machine at home. Slide down to a pain-free range of motion for 5 seconds and hold for 5 seconds before returning to the starting position. Do 10 perfect reps. Ankle raises. This category wouldn't be complete without some direct ankle work for lower leg development. Calf raises involve plantar flexion. Shin raises involve dorsiflexion. Do at least an equal amount of both for training balance, though most people could benefit from more shin work. There are 4 main types of calf raises that you can do at home: standing, leaning, hinging or donkey, and bent knee. Do them off of a low box or step, or use a slant board for maximum range of motion. Going straight-legged targets your upper calf or gastrocnemius more. The bent-legged version stresses your lower calf or soleus more. Once you can do 20 reps on both legs, progress to the single-legged version for each variation. There are 2 main types of at-home shin raises. One is leaning against a wall with the legs straight. This exercise increases in difficulty the further your feet move from the wall. The other is from a seated position, which is best held isometrically for time. A great way to prevent shin splints is to pull your toes to your shins when sitting at your desk or on the toilet. Rock and roll ankle mobility is my favorite variation because it trains the calves and shins, plus reduces the risk of ankle sprains.